Are you a real estate investor looking to sharpen your skills or a newbie looking to become one? You're in the right place. Welcome to Where Should I Invest? Real Estate Investing in Canada with your host, Sarah Larby.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great key point, because everyone's like, oh, this is going to be the highest and best use. Let's just do it all at once. So like, okay, so maybe just walk us through, the last one, like what did you buy it for? Obviously, you've converted it into two separate units. And then I think you went ahead and you applied for the 3 units. Where did you put that 3rd unit? And I think it's, on top of that, I just want to circle back and say, it's really interesting that you mentioned 2 basement units if the basement is long. I mean, like the sky is the limit, right? Like you can slice and dice these properties any way you want. It doesn't always have to be your one in the basement and one on the main floor, and then trying to find how you're going to do the 3rd one. I think there's really creative strategies, but maybe just walk us through some of those numbers.
Sure. So I haven't done this, haven't fully completed this one yet, but in terms of purchase price, it'd be $460. And it would be a triplex. In terms of the split, we'd have 1 unit on the ground floor, 1 unit partially on the ground floor, and then the 2nd floor, and then the 3rd unit's in the basement.
Very cool. And so who on your team is going to be able to help maneuver through this? Like, I mean, obviously you've got an architecture background, but who do you have to help you ensure that this is completed from once you close on the property to the time that you get the refi?
Yeah, sure. So definitely work with a real estate agent. This property was actually bought on the MLS. It was sitting for, I think, 45 plus days. So again, another story of there's still deals to be had on the MLS. I think there was a period in this year that I think the province was opening up. People are just having fun, not a ton of action going on the market. So we were able to get this property at a pretty good price. And so I had a real estate agent that I work with. Her name's Erica Spencer, for anybody else looking. She helped walk through the property. I told her, what I'm looking for, probably a conversion project. And she kind of checked some of the main criteria that I look for, kind of what I mentioned. So ceiling height, windows, entries. So generally we knew how that would all work. And then we're able to put a conditional offer too. So that gave us an opportunity to work with our mortgage broker and everybody on the team, like lawyer, they're all on the same page. So everybody was comfortable in terms of financing, no problems in terms of closing on it. And then that gave me some time to also walk through. I don't always feel the need to walk through, but in this case, I was only planning on making it a duplex. But then when I walked through, I was like, okay, it's actually larger than I thought based on the photos. And I thought, yeah, why not make it a triplex? It has the space, is again, much bigger, and it had enough kind of bathrooms from the get-go. So it seemed like an oversized duplex. So I thought, maybe a better strategy is to go triplex. It was a mix of, having that power team to make me feel comfortable to kind of put that offer in, get it kind of under contract, and then it allowed me to kind of come up with the final strategy.
Very cool. And, I think the question mark too, as you get into some markets and you're doing triplexes, I will say the biggest challenge, and you feel free to jump in and let me know your thoughts, but the biggest challenge sometimes can be predicting the after repair value, as many investors do not sell those and they keep them. And so for sure you can ensure that you've got a good appraiser that meets essentially that whichever lender you're going with. If there's certain ones that we usually ask for, but aside from that, that's the big question, right? Is what is the ARV after repair value on some of these properties, because there are not many comparables, and there are not many comparables that are recent as well. Any insights on that?
Yeah, it's true. So when I was doing that due diligence in that period of getting the offer in and getting under a contract, I did ask my agent to run some comparables. So what are some prices on the triplex? And it's exactly what you said. There weren't a ton. And it was kind of like, here are the duplex prices and here's some fourplexes. And I don't even think there was a triplex in the comparables. So it's definitely a thing. And part of it is because a lot of, I think, investors don't do triplex conversions as often. So there's fewer of them. And then, yeah, I think it just came down to, originally I was kind of thinking of it as a duplex anyways. So it was anything kind of above and beyond that, I was comfortable. And I think it ultimately came down to being more conservative with our numbers, thinking about the worst case scenario. Are we still comfortable with that? And then if we were, then we could kind of keep moving.
Absolutely. I think if you ran your numbers as a 2-unit and they made sense, then you'll get a good one. And I'd love to hear the results as well, just because I literally have a student that is closing on one that's going to become a 3-unit in Welland as well. So
okay, cool. Yeah, we'll do.
Let's share what we can. Obviously, you've alluded to, I think, a little bit of maybe Bill 108 with garden suites and opportunities to have additional dwelling units. Are you working on anything like that currently?
Yeah, so I've been pretty much like analyzing all the properties I have and seeing the possibilities if it can happen. And the Welland properties definitely is usually just a case of, is your property kind of parcel large enough? And that's the case. I analyzed one in Kitchener or my property in Kitchener. The lot wasn't big enough, and contacting the city, they said I need to apply for minor variance, but they weren't favorable in terms of giving me the minor variance. So I decided not to go ahead. So I think that's like the first step for people. But in terms of, I guess, garden suite builds, I've had a lot of inquiries in terms of the design practice I have on the side and doing work with other investors, but nobody's pulled the trigger yet. I think a lot of it comes from, and I tell people right off the bat, like, you can't, it's pretty early days. So in terms of the ARVs and how they're coming in, I think that's still to be determined. So understand that if you're going into this project, there's no guaranteed way to calculate it because it's still like a smaller multifamily, and it's still going to go by comparable analysis, and that's going to take some time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. At some point, I know there's a bunch in BRRRRing that are being done. I think I haven't heard of anyone doing it in Welland quite yet. I have a few students that have at least gotten all the utilities ready to go. Mm-hmm. When you talked about lot size, I think that's really important. Are you able to share, let's just, I know every city is different, they have different criteria, but what are some general things to consider to see if your lot is big enough to potentially add a garden suite or a small prefab building in the back or the side? It depends on where it is, I suppose.
Yeah, sure. I don't have any numbers off the top of my head, but I know for Kitchener, when I was trying to analyze it, I was looking at lot size, setbacks, even frontage and parking. Mm-hmm. I would say those would be covering the main ones, and then trying to figure that out for each city. But I know even more recently in BRRRRing, they've been changing the rules for their garden suites and tiny houses to basically make it almost impossible with the given setback requirements. And you basically need an enormous lot to make it possible. And in those zones, you generally don't have people interested in densifying. So I think that's the challenge.
That, and I think they added a bunch of development fees on top of it as well, and timelines, which elongate the whole process. But
yeah,
it is interesting. I think there's still some opportunity. I think it's part of the future once we maneuver through, some of the red tape and some of the unknowns. I think it could be a great opportunity to do that. Are you looking into if as you're an architect and you've got a bit of background, I know you're doing a little bit of digging, prefab, stick build, is there a difference between the two that you prefer, and if so, why?
Sure. Yeah, I was designing a prototype to be prefabricated and possibly deployed, so it could kind of work in various scenarios. And part of that design was trying to find the parameters that would kind of fit in these various scenarios, given that each city is a little bit different. But for example, I got one costed out. I think it was about 800 square feet, like so 400 square feet in terms of floor plate. And then that one was priced out fully finished. So it kind of has the shell, it has all the drywall, paint, fully finished. It had like no work and whatnot. So that'd be one thing to compare if you're looking at it, stick build versus.
Thanks so much for listening to Where Should I Invest with your host, Sarah Larby. Make sure to listen in next time. We'll catch you on the next episode of Where Should I Invest?